Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Vinales. I'm the communications and social media person for ICUJP. And we're here on a Friday morning, October 17th, and um, we're very glad that you all could join us this morning. Um, Obviously, we're not glad about the program, why we're doing this program, but we are very glad that we all could share our memories and thoughts about Father Chris Ponnet, who was close to a lot of us here. Seeing this group of people just lightens my heart and just reminds me of why I do this all the time. Um, why I come back to this group. So we're lucky to have you. Um, in the chat, I put a link to our ICUJP link tree. And Linktree is a marvelous idea that came out a couple of years ago because you can link to everything that your organization is doing, from the web page to books by authors that we've had on to links to movies that people have talked about that they've worked on. And also we have our donate link to ICUJP. That's actually on the invite that you all got as well. We are a small community group that works on the kindness of strangers and friends, longtime friends. So if you have it in your bandwidth to be able to donate, that would be great. We can do either um, a one-time donation, or you can spread it out over months, which a lot of people do because it's almost invisible at that point, and it all adds up at the end of the year. If you can find it your time today to be able to do that, we would be very much appreciative. Um, and as far as ICUJP announcements, um, we do have, obviously, tomorrow is the No Kings protest. In the email that most of you got, there is a song written by one of our ICUJP board members, a gentleman named Stephen Fisk. And it's a rewrite of an old gospel tune that was rewritten for the civil rights movement, so you can check it out there. There's also the Left Coast Forum that's coming up. You can take a look at that. Also, in the link that there is a link for all the most of the organizations that Chris worked on as well. There probably isn't enough room in cyberspace to put links to all the organizations that he was involved with. Before we get into the body of our program, we do have, well, actually, it is part of the body of the program because Steve has known Chris probably since, I'm assuming before the inception of ICUJP, maybe. Uh, so um, I'm turning the floor over to Steve. If everybody else can go on mute, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks again to every one of you for being here, whether you are a regular or have come to us because of our desire to celebrate the life and work of Father Chris Ponnet. Frankly, I'm so glad to see on this screen Mary and Mark and Patrick and Joan and many others who have been with us over the years. And I do hope if you're inspired or moved by anything you see today, please keep the link, be asked to add to our mailing list and join us at these Friday forums every morning. Chris was very dedicated to these meetings. and it was always a joy to see him and have him participate. I did meet Chris before the founding of ICUJP, which was founded about 24 years ago in the wake of 9/11. I met Chris through Death Penalty Focus. There were dark, sad, sometimes rainy nights, often at the Federal Building in West LA, as the state of California was about to execute someone up in San Quentin. And I distinctly remember this diminutive Catholic priest who would speak at some of those vigils. We then both served on the board of Death Penalty Focus, and Chris continued to serve until he passed away. When ICUJP was convened by the Reverend George Regas, Chris was there. And to the best of my recollection, he was in the room when George Regas, Mayor Hatut, Leonard Bierman, Jim Lawson, and a whole range of community and interfaith activists conceived of ICUJP. Ever since that day, Chris has been such a part of my activism. It's about a week or 10 days now. I received a call from David Evans, a mutual friend. We had a reason to be speaking, but Dave began the call by saying that last night, Chris Ponnet died. I literally asked David to repeat himself if I heard him correctly. As many of you have already said, it was such a shock. Chris was active with our organization right to the end. We had recently had our annual George Regas Courageous Peacemaker Awards event, and Chris was involved in that. And there were emails in my box from Chris Ponnet. It just was shattering. I always thought Chris would be at my shoulder and our shoulders in this long struggle for peace and justice. I counted on Chris. And it's a huge loss. But I received a message, and I believe it was a social media message from Catholic Worker that recounted that when Chris went into what was for him his last surgery, the doctors asked at what level of resuscitation did they want to use for Chris. And it's reported that Chris said, "Please use every means available to keep me alive because my work is not done." His work was not done. And that's the legacy of Chris Ponnet. I often thought that in a laboratory somewhere they had cloned Chris Ponnet. It was impossible for one single human being to be everywhere, to do everything. When Chris would share with us, sometimes Chris was late to these meetings. And sometimes he was late to a DPF board meeting or a committee meeting. And it was always an excusable lateness because we knew from the earliest rising of the sun to its setting, Chris was active in every single area of his ministry. And we'll hear about many of those today from these wonderful speakers. I want to say just quickly right now that we all owe a debt of gratitude to Rick Banales, our communications director. We honored Chris last Friday because it was so fresh, and we dedicated last Friday's meeting to him, and we promised that we would try within a week's time to gather people to have a celebration of Chris's life. And the folks that were scheduled for today were gracious enough to step aside. Later, Rick will announce next Friday's meeting and the future meetings that we're having. But I do want to thank Rick, and therefore thank everyone who's come here today, who will be an announced speaker, and all the rest of you. Chris knew that I was a lapsed Catholic and that I converted to Judaism because of its commitment to peace and justice. And Chris never held that against me. Chris was ecumenical to his soul. He deeply understood that we were interfaith communities united for justice and peace. And he brought that to every single moment of his service with us. There was always a twinkle in Chris's eye. There was always so much going on beneath the surface, and he would choose a moment, and it was often self-deprecating, or he would find something to say that lifted that moment with humor and leavened the sadness or the struggle that we were going through. He was an independent thinker, and he had strong convictions. And I remember meetings at DPF, at ICUJP, in committee meetings and elsewhere, where Chris would speak up, where something that had been said or a speaker had said that Chris disagreed with. And with the utter kindness and civility that I wish our entire national dialogue had more of, Chris would kindly express his own views. He was not intimidated. He was not cowed. And in that respect, and in so many others, he was a champion of justice and peace. We all know where Chris Ponnet would be tomorrow at No King's Day, because he was already at vigils and street corners every week, and every opportunity he had to publicly witness his opposition to racism and sexism and homophobia and authoritarianism and fascism. He was that person who was always present and could always be called on. So if Chris Ponnet had work to do, then we have work to do. And it is his legacy, and it is a way of honoring Chris Ponnet that we are there tomorrow at No King's Day, and that we wake up every morning and ask ourselves, what would Chris Ponnet do today in the cause of peace and justice? I simply want to close these remarks by recognizing that within days of losing Chris Ponnet, we lost Kent Wong of the Labor Center at UCLA. Kent was a towering figure for peace and justice in his own right, a colleague of Jim Lawson, instrumental in naming the building of the Labor Center at UCLA after Jim Lawson. And Kent joined us and was a participant in our work. And we are looking for ways in coalition with the Labor Center and others to honor Kent Wong as well. But I just want to leave you with the sense, as we listen to these extraordinary people who work shoulder to shoulder with Chris, that we may not bring peace to the world in our lifetimes. We may not bring justice to every corner of this earth, but it is being in this struggle with people like Father Chris Ponnet that makes it worth it, that sustains us, that keeps our shoulder to that arc that bends toward justice. And that's the spirit, that's the celebration of Chris Ponnet, and that's the work that remains to be done in his spirit and in his name. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Steve. That's really powerful. I was reminded by there's a passage in the Talmud that kind of it for me, it defines Chris and it defines our job now. And it's do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. And you're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. And to know that Chris went into what would be his last moments with that in mind is inspiring. Just being able to talk to people over the last couple of weeks about being involved in this call and everything that he did. I think I mentioned at Chris's the service that he would normally do at St. Camillus on Sunday. I think I mentioned that he should be made the patron saint of multitasking, because it was amazing to me how he could do so much. Let's go to some of our speakers. Because they have certain time commitments, and like Chris, everybody that knew him was busy too. So let's go to Guadalupe Duran Medina, who is the planning deputy for LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis. And there's a portion of the work that he did that might be unknown to some people. So Guadalupe, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Guadalupe Duran Medina, and I serve as Planning Deputy to Chair Pro Temp Hilda L. Solis and First District Supervisor for the County of Los Angeles. On behalf of Chair Pro Temp Solis, I am honored to be joining many here providing reflections and celebrating the life of Father Chris Ponnet, a champion of peace and justice. Father Chris was a deeply respected priest, chaplain, and community leader who dedicated his life to serving others with compassion, dignity, and unwavering commitment to justice. For nearly 30 years, he led the Department of Spiritual Care at the LA General Medical Center, where he ministered to patients, their caregivers, families, and staff from every background and belief. No one person was ever alone. Father Chris was very much present for these persons. And for those patients who he hadn't met yet, he attended also the monthly Health Innovation community partnership meetings. They call them the HICP meetings, established by Chair Pro Temp Solis to lead the active community engagement for the reimagining of the LA General Medical Center campus. Father Chris joined the HICP meetings so that he could plan for the new projects and programming for those patients who would be soon coming to our campus seeking medical and mental health services, among many other services. He was a board certified chaplain through the Association of Professional Chaplains and served as administrator of the St. Camillus Urban Interfaith Chaplaincy, an accredited clinical pastoral education program. There, he trained chaplains of many different faiths to provide spiritual care during life's most vulnerable moments. Ordained in 1983, Father Chris was pastor and chaplain at St. Camillus Parish, serving the LA General, Keck, and Norris medical centers with deep compassion and integrity. Father Chris was a prominent voice in the interfaith social movement in Southern California and across the country. He was a leader in Catholics Against the Death Penalty, Southern California, served as the chaplain for the Catholic ministry with lesbian and gay persons, and was a member of Pax Christi, Southern California leadership team. His commitment to human dignity led to more than 30 arrests for peaceful civil disobedience throughout his lifetime. He was also known for officiating the annual Los Angeles County burial ceremony for unclaimed individuals, those who died alone without family to claim them. Father Chris invited leaders from many faiths to honor the dead with respect, ensuring that even those without a name or family were not forgotten. He turned this simple act into a powerful expression of shared humanity. Born in Temple City, Father Chris was one of 8 children raised by Frank and Louise Ponnet. He often spoke of the strong influence of his parents and his mentor, Monsignor John Birch, in shaping both his vocation and his passion for social justice. Through his ministry, his leadership, and his advocacy, Father Chris Ponnet uplifted the most vulnerable and reminded us of all the sacredness of every human life. Today, we remember and honor his legacy. May his life continue to inspire service, compassion, and justice in all of us. Thank you so much, Rick, for bringing us together. We're so honored and blessed to have met and worked with Father Ponnet. And again, we honor all his work. It's tremendous work, very dedicated and committed work. And we hope to continue in his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that, obviously, like I said, as working with the supervisory districts, you guys are all very busy. So thank you. And thank you for, on behalf of Supervisor Solis, and I hope she can join us one day. That'd be good. Thank you very much. We also wanted to hear from Irene Resendez, who's the chairperson of St. Camillus Parish Council, where Chris was at for, I think, over 30 years. And
Yes, over 30 years.
yeah, and it was a powerful service. So please, if you will.
Yes, well, thank you again for inviting me to this event here honoring Father Chris. I started out at County General in 2000, I believe, and at first I met Father Bob, but then I met Father Chris, and little did I know, and even my family would say, did I know that I would be not only a side-by-side worker there, but that I would gain a friend because of his kindness and his big heart. I'll speak to what I know he did at the county hospital. Um, he was so dedicated to that patient population. Much, and I think that's what drove him, and Hugh and Jean can add, chime in. Um, what drove him was making sure that the patients got the bedside care that they needed during a difficult time in their life. That was his passion. And that's what led him to realize that he needed to be board certified as a chaplain and to start the interfaith chaplaincy program at St. Camillus because he realized that it was more than just, we had more than just Catholics. We have multi-faiths, multilingual. So we annually, at least last year, the chaplains provided 24,500 visits last year. That's a lot of patients to be seen. Of those, they had 28 different faith traditions with 90 different languages. When I was chief nursing officer there, I remember saying it was like a mini United Nations. And he was like passionate about making sure that everybody got the care. And he didn't care what religion or if you didn't have a religion. He just wanted to make sure that that person who was going through a difficult time, that family that was going through a difficult time, had a trained person to help them in that process. So the majority of the work that St. Camillus does is the chaplaincy. And that's what we primarily focus in our fundraising. But we also provide other services to the community. Uh, they took care of 3,000 unhoused people. Um, St. Camillus also provides rent assistance, sometimes to help them pay their bills when they get discharged, because a lot of times they've been out of work for a long time because they've been sick. And these are people with little or no insurance. So he even thought about that and that's why we got together with AIN because they were doing the same thing. So I think the biggest thing for me is the legacy he leaves behind uh is just they're big shoes to fill. In terms of continuing his work, ensuring his passion, continuing to train chaplains is a major goal for us right now. To continue that program, I don't have the numbers, but we've trained a lot of interfaith people that are now directors of other programs at other facilities. So his life's work has gone farther than just Boyle Heights. And how when he got his hands on something, he grew it. Just like he grew the chaplaincy service, just like he's grown the burial service for the unclaimed dead. I mean, it's now on Zoom and there's, a lot of people and I remember when he first started doing it, that was just him and a couple of people and that was it. And now there's music and there's just all kinds of things. So, he was somebody that's going to be very hard to be replaced if you can even say that he's going to be replaced. Because of his passion and his love for, I can say my community, because I grew up in Boyle Heights. But it really, I mean, he was just so inclusive and always wanted to give people the benefit of the doubt. And be inclusive in the decision making too. So I'm gonna miss him deeply, but I know he's happy we're not. And thank you for having me here.
No, thank you very much. And I hope with Steve and the other board members, um, permission, I'd like to, we still want to keep a very active relationship with St. Camillus and everything
Sure,
that you're doing,
sure.
and anything that comes up. I remember, and I think I don't know if you were on the call when I called Father Chris's office last year, and we had to talk about something, and he answered, and he said, is this Pope Francis?" Which he did to a lot of people, right? And I said, "No, I can't be, because he supports Argentine soccer, and it's Mexican football mexicano for me, el tri." So he was, he got to know people that way, and I think his sense of humor was a way to do that. So uh thank you for joining us as well. I hope you can stay on. And we also wanted to hear from Catherine Morris, who introduced herself earlier, but is very much involved with Jeff Dietrich, with the LA Catholic Worker, and has been for many, many years, not only in LA, but previously. So, and who worked very closely with Father Chris. So, Catherine, please.
Thank you. Father Chris was first and foremost a good friend, and all of the things that people have spoken of and been amazed by, it suits us too, that we could not understand how every first Wednesday of the month, Father Chris would be at our house at 6 o'clock as the liturgist. And that was all the years that he was at St. Camillus. And it was a great blessing. And we think of him, I especially think of him as part of the glue that holds a group like the Catholic Worker, which doesn't have a lot of people to take on jobs of being in charge and so forth, but we've stuck together, and I consider him very much a part of that, which has helped us stay on the move. And in addition to his masses, which are always very beautiful, and he would have some little joke about the open homily, that he would say a few words, not more than 3 hours, and then a big Chris smile, and he would open it up for the people. Like last night, this past Wednesday, we had a rather large group from Villanova University for the liturgy. And the night before his episode, he was at our house the first Wednesday of this month. And I will always treasure that first Wednesday in October as the day he joined the cloud of witnesses that left us without our shepherd. An area in which he was very much involved is resistance. And there have been some mentions of arrests and so forth. He was frequently with us in our organized demonstrations or others' organized demonstrations in which we both showed up. And we were arrested together more than once. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, he and Jeff were going to go to the MDC where the immigrants are being brought in from the vans and buses, and block them. And he had made arrangements for a priest to take his place while in the event that he spent time in jail. It didn't work out quite that way, because the priest that he had as a substitute had to withdraw, and he felt committed to stay with his liturgy commitments. But he was there at the gate when Jeff went in alone, blocking the vans and buses, and was arrested. So he was involved in resistance right up to the end. And something that hasn't been mentioned, I think I didn't hear this, but for many years, the County of Los Angeles has had an annual burial of the unclaimed, and it's in the hundreds and thousands, really. And it was Father Chris that added to that simple burial a memorial service. And so for years, we would go with others who heard about it, and there would be a beautiful service that Father Chris designed to accompany the burial of the unclaimed. And it grew year by year. It kind of went on Zoom at the time of the pandemic, and it has changed a little bit, and I hope it doesn't get dropped, because he was the originator and the one who made it possible every year. We were familiar with his family, knew some of his nieces, and it was not uncommon when he would come on a Wednesday evening for him to let us know who in his family was currently ill and who had ended an illness in death. So his family was very important to him, and he was always available to them, and had commitments to make sure that everything went okay at events where his brother Jim was present. And I'm just saying some of these things to give some extra thought to how broad his reach was. I am amazed, as others have mentioned, how could he do all of this? Someone who has had a history of heart problems and surgeries over these years, but it just doesn't slow him down. We've seen him on fasts, we've seen him in jail, we've seen him in all kinds of situations that would slow down most people, but not Chris. We've seen him come to demonstrations in the midst of a fast where he no longer could walk, and would arrive at the demonstration in a wheelchair. So he just had some extra something or other, and I wish I could have snagged it while he was with us and around us so much of the time. I'd also like to mention that the St. Camillus Church or chapel, I'm not quite sure what it is called, a center. Oh, it's the St. Camillus Center for Pastoral Care. And if you haven't been there recently, you really should drop by just to let yourself in on a beautiful scene. It is really like a gallery of John August Swanson's artwork, and some very, very talented designer who has made many changes in the chapel, and it is beautiful. And that, to me, spoke of one of his talents. He was so connected. They were good buddies, he and John August Swanson. And there are touches around the outside of the center as well, memorializing some of the people in the groups that he reached out to. And so one if I were going to sum up how I see Chris Ponnet, it would be nobody left behind. We for years heard no child left behind. Of course, we knew that wasn't quite true. Even of the current news these days, children that are left behind. But I got to thinking, who did he leave behind? Not those on death penalty, not those who were in the immigrant community, not those in the gay community. Name a group that he didn't address. So nobody left behind is how I will always remember Chris Ponnet, because he is one of a kind, and very much on my mind is who can take his place. Thank you all. Everything else I would have to say has been said very well by others. And though we as Catholic workers are not big joiners, we are not members of ICUJP, but we appreciate everything you do, and we appreciate our shared love of Father Chris Ponnet.
No, thank you very much. We'll sidebar maybe in the next couple of weeks because I want to make sure we're sharing what's happening at the center at the LA Catholic Worker on our website too, because you guys are still publishing a newspaper in 2025. That's first, I'm amazed that people read. Second, that you're having people, that you've been doing it for years. It's really good to know. And we'll, by all means, we need to keep things going. We're joined by a couple people that I didn't get a chance to put in
Oh,
the
Rick,
announce.
Rick, Rick,
Mhm.
just to let everybody know, I did put it in the chat. Father Chris had already scheduled the burial of the unclaimed dead. It's on the calendar
Yeah.
for December the 11th. We're in the process of putting it together, but it will continue. I've spoken to the administrators at the county, and they're very uh, adamant that it will continue in his legacy. So we are just trying to get all of the plans together, and we'll probably post it on the website just so people know. It will be held December the 11th.
That's good to know. And if we can, I'll make sure that we let people know in the broader ICUJP family about it as well. And then, I think it would be a good place for us to witness and I think I mentioned during the service on Sunday, he always was an embodiment of this quote by a writer named Austin O'Malley that has really informed me. Practical prayer is more about wearing out the soles of your shoes than wearing out the knees of your trousers. His prayer was the actions that he had with people. And I that's a full life right there. Um, we are joined by other people, so I wanted to see if they're up for recollections as well. I know Ken Budigan joined us from Pace Bene. Ken, if you'd like to share, because of course he was very much involved with your group as well.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thanks everyone for being in this circle. I'm stunned that Chris has departed, and Pace Bene sends its condolences to every one of you who knew Chris so well. Chris was on the board of Pace Bene, and Pace Bene means peace and goodness. It's a Franciscan phrase. and he was instrumental in helping us launch an effort called Campaign Nonviolence, hosting a training that I led in LA way back in 2014. And that led to an effort across this country and around the world where every year over 5,000 events calling for a culture of active, creative, liberating nonviolence for justice, peace, and sustainability takes place. And that's Chris planting those seeds. But I think I'd like to just mention, at least from my vantage point, I'm in Chicago, and was able to be asked to do some web trainings on nonviolence that Chris opened up, including for this network. But I just want to lift up the fact that we have had the opportunity to be with somebody who's extremely rare. And I'm speaking as somebody who stands in the Catholic tradition. It's especially rare in that tradition to have a Catholic priest be, as it was said earlier, so welcoming, so inviting, so ready and willing to put his body on the line. 30 arrests we heard about, but putting his whole body into this effort for the well-being of all, not almost all, not some, but everyone. My experience, I've been very fortunate in my life to meet a few people who don the robes of the Catholic priestdom, who have put themselves into this kind of work for justice and peace, and Chris is one of them. And I say rare, and which deepens my own sense of loss. Rare to say I'm really going to take seriously not only loving the neighbor but loving the enemy. And I'm going to do that with those two hands of nonviolence. On the one hand, I will not cooperate with your injustice, but I'm open to you as a human being. Father Chris Ponnet dramatized that in so many ways. And I've so appreciated hearing these reflections and stories that he was prophetic, that is to say, speaking truth to power. He was somebody who was practical, and he brought that sense of practical approaches to what we were trying to do at this little nonprofit, 35-year-old nonprofit, Bene. And he was a peacemaker. And all of these things are, they're rare in general, but they're especially rare in the light of and life of how, at least in this country, clergy operate. And so for those of you who are clergy in different traditions, thank you for being that rare light. Father Chris Ponnet certainly was. But I think even what we learned about his statement to the doctors as he was going in for that last procedure indicates that he was really hoping that it wouldn't be rare, that what he was living would only be seen eventually as ordinary. And I'm speaking especially out of his tradition and my tradition, which the fact that he was part of this interfaith network tells us something about how rare that was for a Catholic priest to do that, but also that he is teaching other clergy and laity in the Catholic tradition that if we're going to take this tradition seriously, we have to be putting it on the line. We have to showing up at the Catholic Worker at 6 a.m. every Wednesday, but also at the federal building more times than we can count, and many other ways of resisting domination systems of racism, sexism, homophobia, economic injustice, and so forth. So what an amazingly rare person, but he was betting that he was not going to be rare. And I think the fact that all of you are in this circle and sharing what you're doing, we all have gotten that gumption from the James Lawsons and the many other people, but also Chris Ponnet. And that's what we get to savor, is maybe beginning or deepening tomorrow with the actions across this country, the potentially the largest single day of dissent in the history of this nation, that Father Chris has urged us on to this, and to say, not only do the action, but be an example, so that what he's doing is not so rare. Thanks so much for having myself and Pace Bene on this circle. I will finally say I'm feeling a lot of deep loss, and so grateful that we had this time to be together.
No, thank you very much. I'm reminded how much Father Chris identified with his Irish background, going back to his homeland a few times, I believe, and how this is kind of like an Irish wake, where there's some sadness, there's some laughing too, as we remember him. And
Where's the alcohol, Rick?
it's at my house, and it's staying at my house.
A pint of Guinness for Chris.
Yeah, I actually do have a can of Guinness in the fridge, and I'll lift it up as we go. No, not as we go, because that would be till 9:30, and I gave that up in college. Let's see. I wanted to hear from a couple of people as well. There are a couple of people that have either been on the board or worked with Chris for a long, long time. But one of our board members did something very interesting. A gentleman that lives in Virginia now, Stephen Fisk, and I put a couple things in the chat. One of them is a talk that Father Chris did a couple years ago after John August Swanson passed away. And we do these forms and put them up on YouTube, and this is connected to our YouTube channel. So if you want to go there, bookmark it so you can see what we do, that'd be great. But you can take a look at that talk by Father Chris about Pope Francis and John August Swanson. But also Stephen Fisk took this great gospel song that was rewritten for the civil rights era and put new lyrics to it. If we have time later on, I might be able to play it as we go out. But Stephen Fisk, I know you worked with Father Chris as a board member and out here. I wanted to see if you had any quick thoughts on that you'd like to share.
Well, thank you for asking. Father Chris was one of the people around the table at ICUJP who was an inspiration to me. Deeply in my heart, I felt his love. I felt his commitment to everyone. He was kind to everyone. He always had a good word to say. But the kindness was mixed also with deep wisdom that, in a way, superseded his Catholic position. He was everybody's father in a way. And that was a wonderful and warm, I always felt warmly respected and treated by him when in all our interactions. And whenever he hosted us at St. Camillus, he was always gracious and full of what was needed to be done. And he wouldn't hesitate to do what was needed to be done for the sake of everyone. He was generous in his heart and generous with his love, and an inspiration to me as I continued to participate with ICUJP. And I'm so grateful that we can have this morning of remembrance for Father Chris.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us. Thank you very much. Also joining us, Bishop Brian Nunes of who is the bishop of for the San Gabriel Valley. He was driving at one point, so I don't know if you're still driving. If you can keep your hands at 10 and 2 and address us, that would be great. Otherwise, I can come back to you when you're somewhere safe. But he might not be listening at this point, though. I mean, multitasking, that's what we're called upon to do. Ah, there you go. Yeah, I think he was driving. So, let me know if you're. Oh, there you go. Nope. Okay.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Let's see. Actually, Hugh and Jean, I know that you worked with Father Chris in a different capacity. I wanted to see if you had some short things that you wanted to say. So yeah, if you want to come off of mute, and that would be great. There you go.
Yeah, I have a few things. I spent a lot of time with Father Chris. I retired at 60, and I would go into St. Camillus Pastoral Care Center to accompany him on whatever he was working on. But we had a long history before that. And, two things that haven't been mentioned that we took great joy in was Father Chris had a particular joy and connection with Disneyland. And he exhibited that in many ways, but in working with children and catechesis, he would do some of these wonderful connections. And both of us were teachers at some point with young children. So we kind of saw the great wisdom in bringing to children examples of the gospel as portrayed in Disney characters and the journey of life. So that's one thing that I wanted to bring forward. And another thing was Catherine mentioned his family, but I think family really rooted Father Chris in his ministry and his life. And it was lifelong from the time of being the youngest child and his father passing to today, where his family has gathered from so many places to connect and celebrate his life. And that fed him in a way that it was mentioned that many Catholic priests in our tradition is Catholic, uh, do not have. And part of that is structural. Father Chris was allowed to be pastor at St. Camillus Pastoral Care Center for 30 years. There is not hardly a Catholic priest in the nation any longer that serves 30 years at a particular community and is able to live out all those callings as Father Chris was. And the other thing I wanted to mention is one of the things that Father Chris nourished and was nourished by is every morning the chaplaincy team at St. Camillus gathers, and there is a spiritual sharing and really an exploration of where we're at. So the chaplain that dealt the night before with the death of an infant, the first child of a family, and was involved in that grief, is supported by that sharing. And he did that consistently for all the time I remember. And it was a very powerful way to serve a community that is consistently challenged by grief and other health medical challenges. And Jean, I don't know whether you.
No.
I'll pass. Okay, Jean, I'll pass. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, you and Jean. That's what was kind of interesting about trying to pull this all together is how many different areas that Father Chris worked in and groups that he was integral to, not just like a board member that would show up every month, maybe take a picture somewhere. He was doing the work in each and every group and activity that he was involved in. That to me is amazing. And a couple of the people that I know, along with Stephen Fisk and Steve Rohde, other board members that worked with Father Chris for a long time. But also, if you want to share your reflections, because you knew Chris almost as long as anybody here, I think, as well.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Yeah, I served as chair of ICUJP for a period of time and knew Chris in other contexts. And I just think of Chris as a person who did not call attention to himself, was committed to getting the job done, whatever that job might be, in the name of peace and justice and love. And he was somebody you could count on, you know. And when you're looking around for volunteers who will really follow through, Chris is one that you look to. And I put it in the present tense because I'm still coping with the fact that he's gone. I mean, that lack of reality that he's actually gone is part of where I am right now. And there was a seriousness about him that was not serious. Does that make any sense? He was serious about life, while at the same time not taking it too seriously. He knew that there was that lightness that comes with grace. I think he understood grace, lived it, and you can get serious, but it's not close to a depressed state. It's quite the opposite. So I think we'll all miss Chris very, very much. And it's a reminder to me that so many are gone, Jim and George and Leonard, and on it goes. I mean, come on. It's just, I don't like to lose these wonderful, wonderful witnesses to all that matters most. So with that said, I'm just with everybody on this screen, feeling it deeply. And Chris, if you can hear us, thank you so much for all that you've given to us all and to the world.
Thank you very much. That's a good way to put it. I'm putting in the chat as well the funeral arrangements that have been set up for Monday, November 3rd at St. Luke's in Temple City, which was his home church, and for Tuesday, November 4th at the cathedral. I should mention Catherine and with the Catholic worker, I think action from the cathedral, walking that day on Tuesday, walking to the federal building, which is a great way to memorialize Chris, because he would want it to be a day of action. We'll have more information on that as we go. Bishop Nunez, I don't know if you can hear us now. Yeah, so just be safe driving over there. And if you can say a couple things, that'd be great.
Oh my goodness, finally. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I was listening to all those wonderful tributes and frustrated I'm in my car and unable to figure out which button to push. So it's an honor for me to be with you and in a way to kind of represent the church, even though that's not really what I'm doing. But I myself knew Chris for probably 20 years, and I was touched by, as you guys have been saying, so many different facets of his life and ministry. Chaplaincy at this huge trauma center, and his work with LGBT folks and against the death penalty, and working for peace and justice, and just so many things. But what touched me most was, 2 years ago, he invited me to join him in his annual service for the unclaimed, those who passed away in the course of the year and had no family members, no friends to come for their remains. And so he would always take part in an interfaith service right there at Evergreen Cemetery. And he invited me 2 years ago to join him. And that was just so profoundly moving and just a beautiful testament to what he was about, just serving everyone, but in very, very especially the least among us.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you could join us, and it was good to hear from you at the mass that he normally performs, the one that you performed on Sunday. So I hope that with ICUJP we can be involved with more area in San Gabriel, but farther out as well. And like I said,
So
please
thank you.
keep your hands on 10 and 2.
Hey, got it.
All right. Rose, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to be brief. I'm actually in England at the moment, and I've just got in from an outing this afternoon, so I've missed most of this. But I just wanted to say how much I always appreciated him so much. I always waited for his words of wisdom whenever we had any of our meetings. And I was just so shocked when I heard that he'd gone. And basically, I'll just keep it at that. But I would like to be informed about whatever action is going to be happening on the 4th of November. He will be missed by a lot of people, including me. Thank you.
Yep, I'm sure as with Catherine and the Catholic worker, as details come about, march or a vigil from the cathedral to the federal building. As they come aboard, we'll be hearing about it and posting about it as well. So we're glad that there's so many new faces here. And please, if you want to get on our mailing list, you can do that very easily, and you can hear about everything that we're doing. Um, and while I have some people here, next week I can tell you about the program that we're having, which is with somebody who used to join us a lot when we were at Emmanuel, who is doing a lot of really good work. Her name is Annie Zonneveld, and she has a new book out called An Unlikely Social Justice Warrior, Making My Life Count as a Muslim Feminist. And she has a really great organization that is frankly pushing back on the stereotypes that a lot of people have about the Islamic faith and everything going on around it, and everything that's not going on around it, and people assume. So I hope a lot of you can join us for that.
And although it's a little out of character, this is the moment in our meetings when we've had speakers come from all over, and we've had many today. And we've had newcomers join us. And as chair of ICUJP, I am authorized to grant you card-carrying membership in ICUJP. Anyone who's been absent for a few years, your membership has been fully renewed. For newcomers, you are fully paid with a lifetime card-carrying membership in ICUJP. That's just our way of saying, please join us. We were founded with the principle that Chris helped design, that religious communities must stop blessing war and violence. That's what Chris committed his life to, and that's what we're doing. So you are all part of the ICUJP family. Join us on these Friday mornings. Watch for announcements of our vigils, our closed Guantanamo event in January, other series of events throughout the year. Thank you so much.